have you ever been sick with like a fever?
Mm-hmm.
You don't feel like exercising, right? In fact, you might even have experienced that you feel weaker.
Yeah.
Because you are weaker.
Mm-hmm.
Because your physiology is working against you. You're not able to perform the same level because your body is trying to overcome some sort of infection. And it's the same principle, which is why people would react to the stress that you introduce to their body that gives them this reaction. Because they're focusing now on the stress of what you've done to them with exposure. That's the priority, and therefore their muscles react to that stress rather than the movement that you're trying to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's as simple as that.
All right, so thanks for coming on. Can you give us your name?
Jess.
Jess?
Yeah, Jess.
My name is Artmar. No. What do you do?
I'm a chiropractor, so I work in Luxembourg. I have a clinic in Strassen, and I've been here since 2011, and I graduated in 2010.
Yeah.
And I was working in London for a while, and then got fed up of living in London, so I decided to move to Luxembourg because I wanted to find somewhere new and exciting as a youth, and then I met my wife and we had 2 kids. But
nice.
But before that, it was like when you first started university. I mean, you obviously learn the basic sciences. It's a 5-year master's degree.
The chiropractor.
Yeah, doctor of chiropractic. And then so I basically moved here, and I very quickly realized that I didn't actually know how to fix people.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, well, look, if you're going to open your business, you kind of need to know about it, because a lot of these clinics they focus really on the business side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just not a business person.
You mean like they want to keep
marketing,
keep you coming back?
Yeah, marketing,
okay.
and just kind of like, advertising, and I just wasn't really interested in that stuff. So I was like, okay, well, the only way I can survive is to actually figure out how to fix people. And so you can there's a lot of ideas about back pain and stuff, and I just didn't really have any room for error, because you're a kid and you're a young guy and you've just opened your own clinic. There's not much room for error. Mm-hmm. And so I spent a lot of time figuring out what was the best way to actually figure out what's wrong with people. And I did a few things which were kind of okay, but then nothing really like ticked a lot of boxes for me. There were interesting things, like a lot of it was neurological approach, the neurological approach to musculoskeletal injury. And so I did a lot of discovery in terms of how that works. There's a very interesting set of seminars you can go to called the Carrick Institute, which deals a lot with head trauma and really complicated stuff, and it can get really, really complex with that sort of stuff, like very bizarre patients.
So just to pause you there, no, it's good. Like, just to elaborate a little bit on, you said a neurological what did you say?
Yeah, the neurological mechanism behind
that affects the physical.
Well, it's the same thing. So we talk about the neuromusculoskeletal system.
Yeah.
That's the word for the connection between the muscles, the bones, and the nerves.
Okay.
There are different models that have come out. One of them is called the spinal stability model. It's Punjabi and white, if anyone wants to look it up. And this relates on the active, the passive, and the neural control of movement. Okay. So the active control is obviously the muscle itself. So all the movement tissues. The passive are all the ligaments and the tendons and things, and the non-contractile tissues. And then the third component was the neural control, so the actual innovation of all that. And that's the triad that allows you to be able to control and move your muscles.
So maybe for those that are not super knowledgeable in this field, what you're trying to study and what your approach is to find the links between the neurological side of things and then the physical outcome of it, or I
think it's more to realize that they're actually the same thing.
Okay.
There is no.
Okay.
The fact that it's just you're just a walking circuit board, basically.
Okay.
It's the integration between the sensory component of your body, so that whatever your body can sense through your different senses, and how your body actually processes that information and comes up with the movement strategy that allows you to do things like CrossFit.
Okay. That's interesting. So, did you grew up in London?
No, I grew up in South Africa. I'm actually from Cape Town.
Oh, okay.
So we had a background of sports. We had a very sport-oriented school. So, so the reason I became a chiropractor is probably quite important. I had a skateboard injury when I was 11.
Yeah.
And I basically broke my spine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I shattered T5.
Wow.
I remember it. It's actually like the worst thing in my life.
Yeah.
And
when you say shattered, what does that mean?
So different types of fractures. So the vertebral body just exploded. It's called a Jefferson's fracture. And so basically I didn't have a functioning vertebra anymore. And so
did you have to go on a wheelchair for a while?
No, I had a lot of pain.
Yeah.
So I was not able to do things, and I was a lot of pain, and like my parents didn't have money. So like there was not, like, it's South Africa. It's like, this not first world country, and so we like looked for different alternatives. My mum took me to a chiropractor, and like, because all the doctors were saying, like, you're not going to be able to do things, and you're going to be able to do this, and you won't be able to do this. They were focusing real on things I couldn't do, like I wouldn't be able to do, and said, like, take medication and pain stuff and like that. And of course I developed a scoliosis because of this thing, and I still have it, but it's completely functional. So I went to the chiropractor, and like 2-3 visits, it was like done. I was like, that's kind of what I want to do the rest of my life.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
So you almost saw like a superhero there as a kid. Almost.
I mean, I guess, but it was more the fact that I just thought that's kind of what I want to do with my life. I want to help people in that way.
Did you already start like approaching that path?
Well, I knew I wanted to become, do veterinary medicine, so I actually wanted to become a vet.
Okay.
I wanted to become an animal doctor.
Yeah.
But I quickly gave that up.
Okay.
I just said, no, I wanted to do medicine, and then I wanted to do physiotherapy, and then I wanted to say I would do chiropractic instead. So
okay, cool.
In the end.
So you moved to Luxembourg after you finished your chiropractor degree?
Yeah.
And you basically you're on your own, right? I mean, you're starting your own business from scratch.
Yeah, exactly.
You're
developing a patient.
Yeah. So that's a bold or a hard move to make.
Yeah, but it was kind of, if I was to not succeed, I would have just probably moved back to the UK. But, I had a parachute, but if I really had to, if I didn't make it work.
Did it start rolling right away? Or
no, absolutely not. No, it took a lot of years.
Yeah.
2-3 years to get decent. Anyway, so we went back to this idea about how to figure out how to fix people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started doing some seminars by a guy called Simon King, who's also a chiropractor, and he was working in Australia at the time, but he would come to the UK and do some seminars. And I'm naturally a very skeptical person. Like, I don't like bullshit. Like, I just don't. I think it's a waste of time and money, and gives people false hope, right? I don't want to do that.
You guys have something in common, don't you?
Yeah, so I went to his seminar, and I was like, right, I need to ask you these questions. If you can't answer them, I'm getting out of here. So, and he was just able to just basically answer them all, and I was like, okay, this seems to be the way I think that I want to work. And so it takes time to learn the technique. It's called functional muscle testing, and what it does is it looks at the reflexes that allow you to control your muscles during the involuntary movements. So basically, you just lift up your water bottle.
Okay.
That's a voluntary movement.
Yeah.
But there's actually a whole lot of information that goes into that to coordinate the movement, so you don't damage yourself when you bent forward to pick up the bottle, and so you didn't break the bottle, and you had enough force to open the bottle and put it back down again. And these are all reflexive behaviors, and that should work. And when they don't work, you'll bend forward and you'll suddenly rupture your discs, because that movement is unstable, and you put too much stress to a certain structure, and then you'll simply rupture your disc. And that's actually why most people hurt themselves. It's not necessarily doing muscle ups in CrossFit.
Okay.
It's, I picked up a suitcase at the airport.
Yeah.
Or I turned over in bed and I've ruptured my disc, or I've sneezed, or that sort of thing. And that's typically when people start to hurt themselves.
But is that a overuse or accumulative effect? Like, people have
it's
over
probability.
and over doing something the wrong way, or overuse, or...
No, it's probability. So, for example, if a certain amount of your muscles are unable to function correctly for whatever reason, and I'll get into the reasons later, it's like rolling a dice. If you roll a 6-sided dice, there's a 1 in 6 chance you're going to roll a 1. Okay, if you roll a 1 in 20, if it was a roll 20-sided dice, you got a much less high chance of rolling a 1.
Yeah.
So the more problems you have, the more muscle inhibition you have, the higher the likelihood of hurting yourself is.
Okay.
So that's how it works.
But bad movement in that sense, or repetitive bad patterns of movement, can actually lead to more.
That prevents injury recovery. So that's why people don't get better.
Okay.
When they engage in persistent movement behavior that is and not allowing their tissues to recover. And that's where things get really interesting, because it's normally the same mechanism that created the problem, which is why they're not getting better.
Yeah.
So that's...
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. So a bad practice of a bad pattern in a specific movement can actually lead to an injury, and after that even make that you're not recovering correctly.
Yeah.
So in a sense, like I hurt my shoulder doing CrossFit, for instance, perhaps for overuse, perhaps for overtraining, perhaps because I'm moving badly for over a year. And then I get to the chiropractor or the physio. He might help me, he might relieve the pain, but then I get back to the same practice with bad pattern and I get shoulder pain again. Is that what you're saying?
No, because then your problem hasn't been fixed. Then,
exactly.
Yeah,
so the problem was the movement pattern and not necessarily something else.
No, it's because whenever... Let's take that example and we'll extrapolate a little bit with it. So let's say you hurt your shoulder doing whatever movement, like maybe a deadlift, something that's unusual. But so you got to figure out why that happened, because you've done 1,000 deadlifts. Why is it that during that injury you were unable to stabilize your shoulder? Therefore, you exerted a certain amount of force through a certain tissue, resulting in tissue damage, i.e., pain. And so, if it's because of some sort of faulty movement pattern, then you should go to the physio, or you should go to in fact, it should get better on its own. Because the reality is that injury is quite normal. It's quite normal to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
It's how your muscles develop and build.
Yeah.
But it's also normal that you recover. So when people have what we call persistent injury, like for example, if you were to hurt your shoulder and it wouldn't get better in the normal tissue recovery time, then we'd have to figure out why it's not recovering. So it's not really to do with the faulty movement behavior. That would probably adapt over a period of time. So if you had a shoulder injury and you kept training with it, you would develop movement pattern behaviors that would probably create stress somewhere else.
Yeah,
and you might then, exactly. So you get like a hip problem after that. You get like a foot problem, and like you can't figure out why, but you haven't actually figured out what's wrong with the original problem first, which is the key.
And what do you think about CrossFit?
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that I came here for one of the inductions about a year or two ago, and the problem I had was that there was no real emphasis on the technique. And I think that in my job, I can't afford to get hurt. I can't afford to exert myself beyond my limits.
Wait. You came here 1 year ago to train?
I was here. I did an induction,
like a basic course.
Yeah, exactly. And they just showed me the basic movement stuff, and I was at the end of it. I was just
when was this? Was I there?
I don't think you were. It was an Icelandic guy who was there.
Yeah.
It wasn't him and his wife. She was a redhead, and
that must have been more than 3 years ago.
Yeah, time flies, and
the funny part, it could be you now, but it's probably the trainers that.
But I think my wife is also redhead.
Yeah.
Are you Icelandic? Okay.
But also
she was like a
not that it matters, but
no. So anyway, the only criticism I had was that I felt that there was no real emphasis on developing technique. It wasn't like building up. It was just like, you know what, just grab the bar and just try the movement. And I was just thinking to myself, like, I'd rather just start but simpler and build up to all that stuff, and because I just can't afford to get hurt.
I agree.
And so I decided not to do that, and I just kept running and stuff. So
so it couldn't be us, because we do put emphasis in the basic course, perhaps.
Sometimes we don't. But
but in general, in the basic course, we do go over all the technique movements, and we make sure people, at least, they have specific movement patterns that they cannot hurt their back immediately. Like,
I mean, if you look at research, if you take a very scientific approach to what CrossFit is, you're providing an environment where people can exercise, and that's always a positive thing. You're going to help more people by far with their healthy lifestyle than you're going to have people with problems. There's no question about that, because there's nothing worse than sedentary lifestyle. People who sit 8 hours a day and don't exercise and eat badly, and don't engage in regular cardiovascular exercise, that's a recipe for serious health problems.
Yeah.
And you tend to create a sort of a philosophy about how to live your life. I would love to actually take your clients and just do some questionnaires. How many of them smoke? I would bet it was very, very low. You probably have very few smokers here. More information you could ask them about their certain lifestyle, and you'd probably find there's a certain demographic of people who'd come to CrossFit who are much healthier than the normal population. And I applaud that. I think that's fantastic.
Just to hold you there, how far do you think stress levels can actually add to being injured?
Okay, can you just define stress?
Okay, like say, like the question actually goes to the fact, like, people work all day long, they're stressed out, they come here to train and to relax, and by doing CrossFit at high intensity level, they actually put more stress on their body.
Define stress. Emotional stress, physical stress, chemical stress?
Is in that particular idea, is there really a difference?
Yes, absolutely.
Because does emotional stress not have the same impact on your physical being as physical stress?
No, they're completely different mechanisms.
Okay.
Completely different mechanisms.
Okay, so let's say emotional stress.
Okay, so is what you're asking me is CrossFit beneficial for emotional stress? Or do you think CrossFit detrimental?
If you have emotional stress and it's at a high level and you come do CrossFit, doesn't this add on top of it?
Not.
Okay, so that was the question.
Absolutely not.
Yeah. And if you have physical stress, like you have a physically demanding job and then you come here and add on top of it, can that increase your injury risk?
No, I think that your injury risk increases with CrossFit if you have a pre-existing problem and you don't fix it.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have to, there are a few layers of CrossFit. If you imagine up top or at the bottom, wherever, if you want to make a pyramid, you have just the CrossFit methodology, right? The perfect scenario of CrossFit. What you want to just CrossFit. Then you have the application of CrossFit. Both like how, as coaches, how we, how we teach it, how we preach it, how we handle each and every client, all the members, how we teach them the technique, how we do the workouts, all that. And then you have the application from the member side. Does he have pain that he ignores, or does he work around it, or does he communicate that he has some pain? So I think there's a lot of things that can go wrong in the application of CrossFit. If we look at CrossFit as being a very, very good model of human movement and exercise and health, and then there's a lot of, you have 14,000 CrossFit gyms over the world, and there's a lot of freedom in the model. You can pretty much do whatever you want after a weekend seminar.
Right.
So the application of CrossFit is different worldwide.
Right.
And then, of course, it's the atmosphere that, obviously the coaches create that'll make it either good for people or bad for people. And then you have just those, personalities like, and I don't know if that's something you like can, because obviously you study human movement a lot, but there's also cultural, for me at least, when I see, like I come from Iceland, and there it's very common that people push themselves beyond their own limits. Yeah. It's just that, attitude is very common.
Absolutely right. I don't know if you know who Ido Portal is.
Yeah.
Ido Portal?
Yeah.
So he has a very a philosophy I completely agree with. Like if you limit yourself to one movement, you're going to hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You need to be adaptive, and that's the definition of intelligence. Even movement intelligence is about being able to adapt to any environment. So one of the most frustrating things I hear every day is, my doctor told me to stop doing this for 6 months.
Yeah.
It's like so completely counterintuitive.
Yeah, I agree.
Because the doctor hasn't actually understood what the problem is.
I agree. I think that's the biggest problem almost, that people go with maybe a minor thing or whatever, and the first thing a doctor will say is stop moving for how many weeks or months and take these pills. Yeah. That's the first. And we know that to be detrimental to people's well-being. I'll give you the example of how we treat knee replacement surgeries. 30, 40 years ago, they would be bedridden for 6 to 8 weeks. And now the next day they're up and moving, because we see the recovery rate is much better with exercise after some sort of intervention
than if they rest in bed for 6 weeks. So we know that movement is beneficial to human beings. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket science to figure that out. But why are doctors not applying this or not informing themselves? And I think the answer comes down to the fact that they just don't really care. If I'm perfectly honest, they just don't care.
Just maybe they're part of a system, a method that's just, it's rolling, and it's hard to be the odd man out.
It's hard to figure out what's wrong with people. I do it every day, and I do it between 15 and 20 times a day. It's really tough. Yeah. It's exhausting. I sometimes get home at like 8, 9, 10 at night because I've been to someone's house trying to figure out what's wrong with them. It's also frustrating because, you know, if you try and if you're trying to figure out what's wrong with someone, you're going to find more things that don't fix them that do fix them.
Yeah.
And so it's very frustrating to go through this, especially with people who are in pain, because as an empathetic human being, I relate to people who have pain.
Yeah.
And so I want to help them as soon as I can. And it's very hard to not get emotionally attached to that. So I can, from that point of view, I can understand why doctors don't really care, because it's exhausting.
Yeah.
But then you shouldn't be a doctor.
I agree.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
Or be a surgeon, because they don't have patients who can talk. But
true.
I'm being honest with you, and I say this not because I'm not trying to be provocative. I say this because I work in this every single day, and I see this, and it's very frustrating to watch incompetence happen every day, especially when you're dealing with something so severe as someone's well-being.
Yeah,
and it's very emotionally draining. Yeah. So, it's not easy. Like, fixing people is very tough, because people come to you with a variety of different problems, and you've got to try and figure out. And you've got time repression, you've got financial restraints of the patient, and you're limited to your set of skills and your set of knowledge. And you try and be as efficient and make the best decisions you can. And sometimes you get that wrong, and you've got to be able to communicate that, I'm trying to figure out what's wrong with you. And it's not easy. And I like to think that I'm quite successful to try and figure out people, because I do tend to look outside the box. Exactly. Which I think is probably better than just sort of saying, oh well, don't do your sport for the next 6 months and see what happens. But
well, that was actually one of the reasons why I was interested to have you on the podcast is because obviously we never met before, but I know a few people that have met you more than once. Yeah. And your approach seems it's different. It's out of the box approach.
Yeah. I'll just explain how it works. It's quite simple. Your muscles are sensory driven. So whenever you engage in some sort of movement, it's dependent on the sensory input that your body receives that will predict what happens in that movement.
So can you put that in a scenario? Or
Yeah, so let's say, for example, I was to ask you to taste whether some milk was good or bad.
Yeah.
Or to tell me if the milk was good or bad. You could taste it. Most people wouldn't taste it because it's risky. Yeah. But you would smell it.
Yeah.
And that would tell you whether it was good or bad. And if it was really bad, you wouldn't sit there smelling it for a period of time. You would pull your head backwards. And this is the motor aspect of sensory input. And we have 5 senses, technically 6, because we talk about the 6th sense being proprioception, which is joint position sense, which is basically the information that your brain receives from the mechanoreceptors in your joints and ligaments and your tendons and your muscles. And these flood your brain with information and allow you to be able to orchestrate and communicate the movement that you're trying to do to navigate yourself safely through your environment.
Okay. So just to hold you there. So for instance, compensation of movement might be that. So the fact that you compensate a movement is
compensation is a very inefficient way to move.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
You're just talking. The 6th sense is basically the fact that I can, like, open the door and move my hand and the communication between the muscles and the joints while I do a certain movement.
It's the information your brain receives from the mechanoreceptors in your joints, your muscles, and your ligaments. So you can, for example, you can continue talking to me with your eyes closed, because you don't rely on sensory information to control your muscles. Although sensory information from your vision would impact your muscles. For example, if I was to suddenly introduce you to my lion standing behind me, the visual input of that lion, or for example, if you had a phobia of spiders and I was put a spider in front of you, would drastically impact your muscles, movement.
And movement.
And that's the reflex that I use to figure out what's wrong with people, because in that moment your muscles engage in a certain behavior we can examine, and I'm interested to see what happens, what creates this reaction, and whether that's detrimental to your well-being. So
and how do you trigger that? I mean, how do you trigger that reaction?
You just use the sense. You just introduce it to your sensory environment. It's either present within some sort of lesion, like if you were to break your ankle, you wouldn't be able to run, because the movement is relying on the ability to be able to put weight through your foot. You can't do that because it's broken. There's also a pain component to that, and therefore you wouldn't be able to do it. But for example, if I was to go back to the milk analogy, I would then simply get you to smell the milk and see how your body reacts to it. If that was what I was interested to do.
And do you see a relationship between, if there's like a bad reaction to me smelling a certain milk, that could almost affect the fact that my knee hurts, or like?
Well, let's say you're lactose intolerant. And you're sensing the proteins in the milk, or potentially the emission of the gases that bacteria is producing, which I think is probably more related to lactose intolerance than the actual proteins. But milk's a bad example because it's a fairly
it's a clean. Let's take something else. It doesn't matter.
Let's take mouthwash. Okay, you've used mouthwash in your life. Okay, so you get that nice tingling feeling in your mouth when you have the mouthwash. That's your nerve dying in your mouth.
That's great.
Because it contains something called propylene glycol, which is a neurotoxin. In that state, once you metabolize it in your stomach, it's safe because it changes its chemical composition. But when it's in your mouth, it is a neurotoxin. So everyone has the exact same reaction when you put mouthwash in their mouth, and that is they go completely weak because their body's reacting to the stress of the mouthwash.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I have a hard time believing that.
Well, I
don't need you to believe it.
If I may add, just to put a little story behind this, Jesse came to my place to check specific things, to see if there was something at my place that might injure my back all the time. And we didn't find anything, remember? We didn't find anything. But he wanted to show to me what that actually meant. And it's exactly what you say. And he showed me with the chewing gum. And when I took the chewing gum, I went completely weak. But I think to understand that, and I think
what do you mean weak? Well, like what?
That's what I mean. It's not clear yet what you do as a chiropractor to actually assess people. I think that's not clear yet in the podcast.
So, I've been to a few people that treaters, chiropractors, physios, massage, whatever, doctors, and various tests. So, some chiropractors have done like stick your tongue out to the left and stick it out to the right, and then you're weaker on one side. And are we talking similar things here? No.
This is a branch of something called applied kinesiology, and the principle behind applied kinesiology is flawed, because a lot of it is governed by the intention of the practitioner.
Exactly. It's like magician.
Exactly. It's that what's his name?
Deception.
Exactly. And it's very.
That's
easy.
what I think that is.
And that's part of the reason I was incredibly skeptical when I first went to do this seminar. And that's one of the first things we talk about, is because what you're doing in this is you're simply tricking the individual. There's a lot of trickery to it. Because what you're doing is you're manipulating their physiology against them. And if you are proficient in the skill, because let's face it, I mean, not everyone can just simply pick up a basketball and throw it in the hoop. There's a certain skill to be able to do what I do. And so once you can understand the skill, you can reproduce what you're looking to achieve. And that is to allow the muscle to engage before you examine whether it's active or inhibited. And if you don't allow the patient to engage first, you can simply overpower them just by simply beating them to the contraction. And that's bad muscle testing. That's useless.
That's cheating people, actually.
Yeah, there's no utility there at all, because it's simply tricking the individuals. Like, there's no utility there. But once you engage in proficient muscle testing, you can reproduce the outcome. And I've done this. I've double blinded myself and my colleague, who is now starting to become a physiotherapist, and he uses the same technique I use, but from a muscle point of view. So it's called MAT. You might have heard of this. It's very common anyway. It's a tangent, but so we've double blinded ourselves, and we wanted to figure out, is this true? Does this really work? And the answer is yes, because we were able to reproduce time after again with a double-blinded trial. So we were placing different pills in our tongues and finding out if we could tell whether it was vitamin B12 or vitamin D, because we had the patient who was vitamin D deficient. So we rationalized that we could be able to tell whether that pill was vitamin D, or the patient was vitamin D deficient, or whether it was vitamin B12.
How did you perform the test? Like,
so
the patient comes to you.
My secretary took 10 pills of each. Yeah. Okay. So we knew the patient. We knew what the situation. So that wasn't the double blinding was, the patient didn't know which pill it was. One is pink and one is white. They're about the same size. Okay. And so the only person who knew the answer was my secretary. So what she would do is, we should bring in a pill. I was unaware of the pill, so was the subject, patient, and it would be placed on her tongue for a few seconds, and I would walk in the room and I would be able to say whether it was pink or white, because the pink one is B12 and the white one
because she showed a different reaction.
Because the chemistry, the sensory input from that pill, the chemical reaction that happens in your mouth when you're tasting something, was different between vitamin B12 and vitamin D. They're very different molecules.
Yeah, but what do you mean? How do you see it? Like, their face is different. They make an ugly face.
That's what I mean.
They can't move, and they can't perform certain tests.
Okay, so you test them like
exactly, muscle testing, functional muscle testing.
But I think you should explain exactly what you do, what that muscle testing is, because I think for the podcast it's still not clear what the technique is. You're explaining the background, but not if like, for instance, Arnar is coming to you and you're testing. What are you doing?
You're testing something called a myotatic reflex, or stretch reflex. And what this is an ability to increase muscle contraction as a result of demand placed on the muscle. So while you're conscious and not moving, your muscles are constantly firing at about 50 hertz. It's called the basal rate of contraction of a muscle. When you go to pick up something like a water bottle, that firing rate increases to about 150 hertz, and you reach your maximum voluntary contraction at about 300 to 400 hertz. And that's got nothing to do with strength. That's simply how quick the muscle is able to contract. So it's the speed of contraction, which is what I'm looking for. So it's not necessarily that you become stronger, it's just the muscle is not able to react as quick as it should be. And that's what I'm looking for. So what you'll do is, I'll get the patient to position them in a way that is trying to isolate a specific movement, and then I will take a contact that is not detrimental to patients. I'm not grabbing their wrist or trying to influence it in any way, so I'm trying to be as neutral as I can, and I would ask the patient to engage in the movements. They have to perform the movement first. And let's take, for example, hip flexion. So if you're lifting your leg up off the table, I would then contact over the bridge of the foot. I would make sure their knee is straight and they're in the midline, to be able to try and reproduce the same movement each time. And then I would ask them to engage in a contraction, which is basically try and push their foot up into my hand. And what I would then do is I would meet their pressure, so they would engage in what we call an isometric contraction. And then I would see if they're able to increase their contractivity of that muscle. And if they can't, they'll simply fail, and the movement will not work. It's the same experience that you've had if you drive a manual car and you've accidentally slipped the gear. So if you thought it was in first gear, you put your foot down, you think the car is going to lurch forward, but in the end it just goes, it revs, and nothing happens. It's that same mechanism that happens, because you expect muscles to increase their firing rate.
Yeah.
It's not the muscle itself, it's the action, it's the
Yeah, I know
alpha
what
motor
you
neuron.
mean. Yeah.
And if it can't engage in that contraction, it's because of some inhibitory mechanism. And that inhibitory mechanism is what I'm trying to figure out. What is creating a withdrawal reflex, an inability to contract a muscle, which is an active process, that would indicate whether that was a normal reaction or an abnormal reaction. And I would do this not by looking at one specific muscle, which is also a problem that AK does because they're very prescriptive. They say psoas relates to problems in the upper cervical spine.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work like that at all. Like it's not prescriptive at all. You can't say, okay, well, you have weakness here and here, that means you have this problem. It just doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
There are a variety of different things. And you have to put all movement into context. And so you wouldn't just examine one movement. If, for example, someone comes with a knee problem, I'm still looking at your shoulder.
Yeah.
I'm still looking at your neck flexors. I'm still looking at your glutes. I'm still looking at your paraspinal muscles because it's part of an entire movement system. And I need to figure out, is this a knee problem or is this part of a global problem? And then once you put that information together, you can start to play with the ideas. You can start to change certain things about their sensory environment to figure out what's creating this reaction in their body.
But okay, I mean that makes sense in a way. I guess I'm pretty, like, my views are pretty old-fashioned, meaning like, but I agree with what you're saying. I think there's more relation to like physical injuries, like relating to also the just more stuff than just what you're doing with your body. But how many, like, if a patient comes to you and he has knee problems, do you think it's always something like some kind of chemical that might be?
So the first rule is don't assume anything.
Yeah.
Like if you start to assume things, you'll often make mistakes. And mistakes, like I said before, are expensive in time and money. So I never assume anything. The three questions I ask myself when someone comes to my clinic is, why are they here? So, you know, why have they taken time from their day, you know, to be here in my clinic?
Yeah.
What is wrong with this person? And can I help them? And that's what I have to try and establish in 1 hour.
Yeah.
And, you know, depending on what I find in my examination, which is always the same with every patient because we all have the same physiology.
Yeah.
What the findings are what I use to try and figure out what's wrong with people. So you might have very different findings when I examine you.
Okay.
And my job is then to interpret what those findings mean and try and be as effective to try and solve their problem as quickly as I can. And it also relies a lot on the history of the patient. So asking a lot of questions about their existing health problems or about the problem that they come to me with. Like, is this a problem they've had since a few days? Or have they had this for 20 years? Because that drastically changes my likelihood of whether I can help them or not. If they've had been to therapists before. So people who've, you know, chiropractic is not very well known in Luxembourg, so people often come to see me after having gone to physiotherapists X amount of times, many X amount of times generally.
Because you get it almost for free.
Yeah, and there's no shortage of physios here in Luxembourg. So, and they've often been to an osteopath, and they've often been to their specialist, and they've often been to here and there, and they're here because they want to try what I do, which is about 90% of my experience with patients.
Yeah.
And so, in that case, if they've been to an osteopath, they've probably had some sort of manual therapy, or they've probably had some sort of manipulation, which means that manipulation probably isn't the first place I'm going to start with this patient, because they've already had that. It hasn't worked.
Yeah.
So you got to think different.
Okay.
And so, although, you know, that'll just simply say, okay, well, maybe there's something more complicated going on here. And then I'll just simply try and start to introduce different variables, like try and figure out, okay, where is this problem coming from? If someone says to me, oh, I've had this knee problem for 12 years. Okay, what happened 12 years ago? You know, any car accidents you've had 12 years ago? Any surgery you've had 12 years ago? Any medication you've taken since that time? And try and, you know, problem solve. Try and build a picture. Try and expedite the process. And if I can't figure out exactly what it is, then I'll simply play around with changing different things, different variables.
You once explained to me some sort of a triangle that you use in chiropractic, with like the physical part, the psychological part, and the external part. I might be simplifying that now.
That's a model of health called the triad. It's basically move well, think well, and eat well. Is that the same one?
Yeah.
That's a chiropractor called James Chestnut. He realizes that clicking backs is not the only way to fix people. Probably not a very good way to fix people.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's also someone who advocates these three fundamental principles of health. It's the movement component to it, and it's the nutrition component to it, and it's the emotional component to it. And you need to figure out all these three things if you want to improve your health. Yeah. So I don't tend to do much emotional stuff. I don't feel I'm qualified to do that.
Yeah.
And I don't feel it's the best use of my time. When I suspect there's an emotional component, I'm happy to refer to someone else, or try and encourage them to go and see someone who is qualified to do that. I tend to focus more on the chemical stresses that people experience and the physical stress that people experience, and all of the iatrogenic stresses that people experience.
What does that mean?
Iatrogenic is basically done to you by a doctor. All the things that have arise from some sort of intervention by another healthcare
like a surgery, or maybe minor
a surgery, or a tooth problem you've got, like a tooth infection, or a crown that's a problem, or some sort of medication you're taking, that sort of stuff. And I find that more and more.
Really?
Yeah, really.
Can you name me like an example of someone with some kind of physical pain, and there was a chemical in their life? Yeah.
On Monday night I went to a guy's house.
Yeah.
He's not a CrossFitter.
Yeah.
And he's been having neck pain for years, and I've been treating him for a while, and I got tired of not fixing him. So I went to his house, and
You do that a lot.
Yeah, more and more. But unfortunately, it's very time consuming.
Yeah, I was about to say it must be
not very financially lucrative at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I went to his house. We'll call him JP because that's his name. And so I went to his house, and I assumed it was his mattress.
Yeah.
Because he said to me, he wakes up in the morning with neck problems. And he also started to have sciatic pain. I'm like, nah, there's something I've missed with this guy. And
does this guy do exercise?
Yeah, he's a runner. He runs loads, and he's really fit, and he's a really fit guy.
Yeah.
And skier, and he's a really cool guy, really, really cool guy. And so I checked his mattress, and it wasn't a problem. And I checked his pillow, it wasn't a problem. And I checked everything. And then I started to look at his cosmetics and his toiletries. And I found that there was a moisturizing cream he would use every single night and every single morning for the last 10 years. And as soon as I got him to smell the stuff, his entire body shut down.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I got him to smell it. I got him to take a deep breath through his nose.
Yeah.
And what this does is it introduces the molecules of a chemical to your cribriform plate. And your cribriform plate is the bone in your nose through which the nerves protrude from the front of your brain, called your olfactory end bulb. And when these nerves contact something, they then trigger a reaction in your brain. And when this is deemed to be toxic or stressful, in a very definitive way of stress, your body will simply react to it. Like the smelling of the milk example. Yeah. So you smell it and you pull your head away from it. Or, if you smelled something that was absolutely foul.
It was kind of same with him, or no?
Well, he wouldn't pull away like that. But when I was examining his reflexes, there was absolutely nothing on this guy.
So it's what we said before with the mouthwash.
Exactly.
And
it's
with
the
the
same
chewing
thing.
gum.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just got him to smell it. So my advice to him was, don't use that anymore. Just don't use that cream anymore. And so we went through all of his. I was there for an hour and a half, and I was checking everything because
must have been hard for him since he had done it for 10 years.
Well, no, I think he was actually very excited. He was asking me to test all. Everyone does this. They always say, "Oh, can you test this and this and this?" And in the end, I said, "Okay, well, this is a problem. This is a problem. Change this and this and this, and we'll see how your body reacts." But it was the missing link that was able to explain to me why he kept hurting himself, why he kept injuring himself for no good reason.
So you're saying, did he take it out? And
yes, he stopped using. I don't know. It's only been Monday. But,
okay.
Well, I mean, my experience is that when you change these things, it just changes your life because you're no longer engaging in this inhibition, and these stability mechanism is now active, and you can then recover from a problem.
So you're saying the chemical in the moisturizer or whatever the case might be had an effect on his neck.
Created a neck problem, yeah. And stopped him from able to recover from it. Because what's happening is that when you're exposed, this stuff is on your face and you're breathing it in every night when you're sleeping for 8 hours, and you simply turn over in bed and your muscles don't activate, and so therefore you put stress through certain tissues and you engage in injury. And when you have an existing injury, you know it's more sensitive, so it's more likely to re-injure. And that was the missing link. And I'll put a comment in the YouTube thing in a few weeks, and I'll get JP to comment and see how it goes. Yeah. Happy to do that. Yeah. But I've had that experience a lot. That was the one that was freshest in my mind. And we found a variety of different things on a variety of different people. And depending on the chemical that is creating a problem, you can figure out roughly what it is based on whether it's a fat-soluble chemical or whether it's water-soluble. It's a solvent, but in which solvent it dissolves. So obviously if it's a fat-soluble molecule, you'll store it in your fat cells. And so you can figure out by simply squeezing people's fat to try and see what happens when you do this, because it will simply stress the fat cells and it will create this withdrawal reflex. And this is one of the things I use as a kind of gives me a I'm getting tired now, sorry. It's a bit of a screen, a bit of a clue to figure out what's wrong with this person. And then you go to the house and you'll figure out that's a problem, or that's a problem, or that's a problem, or there's nothing there, in your case. And then okay, well, it's not your house. Where is it then? Because it's something that's in your environment, and so you might have to go to their workplace, or you might look in their car if they're spending a lot of time in their car, or wherever they're spending time, because the more you're exposed to these stuff, the worse it is for you. So if you're spending a lot of time in the office, if there's something that's a problem in the office, then you're going to have more problems. And I've experienced that as well.
Why is it that, if this is the case, and I find this very interesting, by the way, but if this is the case, why are not more people onto this? If you're saying that you can basically do tests about your environment, and a lot of things in our near environment is hurting us and creating pain, and it's that's basically what you're saying,
and
right?
Disease,
and I mean and if you're able to fix it with taking out, and why is it not more known? Why are not
well, it is very well known. I mean, it's very well known the damaging effects of certain chemicals on your body. I mean, that's very. I mean, in fact, if you produce
but I mean, of course, in your world, it's it's the norm. You know what I mean? But for a person a normal person that has pain in the shoulder, they would never think that would not be the first or the fifth thing on the list to think I might have a mouthwash that might be hurting. You know what I mean?
Why wouldn't your doctor tell you to check that out?
Yeah,
that's your question.
Because
I've never heard
time,
this,
and it takes effort and it's difficult.
Yeah,
and
but
I mean, I'll give you an example. I've often found people are very sensitive to their washing powder, the products they use to wash their clothes. And of course, you're wearing clothes all day, and you're breathing this stuff in all day. And if you're sensitive to it, then you're probably going to have problems. That makes sense, right? So that's why there are such a thing as hyperallergenic washing powders, because they realize that there are some people. And it by no means is for everybody. I mean, not everyone, apart from the certain things like mouthwash and aspartame, these things are known to be neurotoxic, and it will have the same effect on everybody. Is that the companies are aware of certain individuals who are sensitive to products, and so they're making products which are less of a potential problem. For example, like Ecova or Frosch or these other companies which are making products which are more ecological, because they're realizing that there's a market for people who don't want to be exposing themselves to stuff. But you're right, not many people would make that connection.
No.
And that's why I have a
I mean,
job.
to me, it sounds very interesting in one way, and then like on the other, or the flip side of the coin, it feels like, okay, if we're gonna apply this, I need to avoid this, and that, and it's just a mess, in my opinion. I would just say, okay, I mean, I can, as long as it's, all products need to go through the, like in Europe, they need to go through the CE stamp.
Yeah, but you see that whole thing is flawed, because when you look at the clinical trials for anything, whether it's a medication or some sort of product you're trying to put to sell in the market, you don't need 100% safety. 95 will do. Well, what do you do with the 5% who are reacting to it? And those are the people who are suffering. So the whole system is completely flawed in that respect.
You're saying, in a sense, let's take as an example, you have somebody who has a chemical that actually works on him, and it's at his workplace. So that actually affects him.
It's negatively affects
So he has an injury, and it probably comes from the workplace.
Okay.
Because there's a chemical that he reacts to.
Yeah.
Now, what you're saying is that not everybody at his workplace might react the same way to that chemical.
They won't react in the same way, no.
Yeah, and what you're saying is that even if one guy has it at the workplace, not everybody must develop injuries due to it. Okay.
Or they might not be aware of them. I'll give you one example. I went to a company a few years back because one of my patients was having headaches, and she said to me, it's something at my office which is creating a problem, because she only had headaches then. During the weekend she had nothing. Okay, so I said, well, let's find out. So I went to her office. I won't mention where she works. And they'd very recently, in the last few months, replaced all the carpeting. Okay, so they had brand new carpets everywhere. And I walked in there and I thought, this place smells really strange, because it was a brand new carpet smell. Oh yeah, they replaced the carpets. So anyway, I examined her in the clinic, and she had no muscle tone whatsoever. She was completely inhibited. I took her outside and I took a piece of the carpet and I had a smell it, and she went completely weak. And just out of interest, so I said to her, basically the problem is that the carpeting...
Did you cut the carpet?
In most companies you have these little plackets on the floor where you can take the thing out because there were plugs underneath. So I just took this out and then used that. No, I didn't cut the carpet. They wouldn't let me back in.
He's always going around with a cutter,
I'll just take it from the middle, just like a square. And so I just happened to ask, and I wanted to show her colleagues, because they were obviously looking at what I was doing, thinking it was crazy, and I showed them the same reaction, and a lot of them had the same reaction, but they didn't have the headaches. But they all said, oh yeah, I've actually developed other problems, more serious health problems, chronic fatigue, or one guy had kidney problems since that time.
Come on, really?
Yeah, so I mean, the thing is that there is nothing you can do about it, because they've just spent X thousand euro replacing carpet.
Yeah.
Okay, and when they send, so I wrote a letter. And they basically just laughed. They said, "You're not going to replace the carpets."
Yeah, of course. I mean, and that's the thing. That's why I'm saying this is so unknown to most people that it seems like voodoo stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it does. But
I mean, I do find it interesting.
So the one way I did force the issue.
Yeah.
Headaches, okay, I'm not sure how sick this makes people, but headaches are pretty bad, especially when you have to try and work to do them.
Yeah.
But one guy developed polycystic kidney disease. So he came to me because he was having muscle contractions in his legs, and he wanted to see if I could figure out what it was, fasciculation, so called.
Okay.
And so I examined him, and I said, there's nothing wrong with you. Everything was working. I could see the muscle fasciculations, but he was completely solid. He was a strong guy.
So that's sort of spasms?
Yeah, they're these little contractions that happen in your in your gastrocnemius muscles here. Okay. And it was much worse when he was at night. Okay.
Yeah, he would cramp almost.
Yeah, and it was basically driving him crazy, because you got ants walking all over your legs, and it was just going nuts. And I said, okay, there's obviously something you haven't told me yet, because this is not normal. That's the first thing. This is not normal. Okay, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
And so he mentioned, actually, I had a cyst on my kidney, and he developed polycystic kidney disease. And I was like, okay, that's pretty serious. And so I said, well, let's find out what it is. So I went to his house, and I found, well, first of all, I found nothing in his house, in his house itself. And then I just said, has like anyone in your house been sick? Like, well, my wife developed cancer like pretty recently. I was like, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that. Like, she had breast cancer and stuff. And I said, okay, fine, but I need to know, like, what about other people? Yeah, well, he died of a brain tumor over there, and he's got MS, and like the whole area was like people who are unwell. And I was like, okay, there might be something more serious. So I said, like, what factories are around here? Like what industry is there in your area? He said, well, there's a company that makes plywood over there, but there's a farmer over the road. And I said, okay, well, let's find out. So I went to the farmer and I grabbed like just a handful of soil, like just like soil from the thing. And I just had the guy smell it, and his body went completely weak. He said no power at all. And so I was like, okay, there's some chemical this farmer is using which is detrimental to your health. And like, when you go and talk to people, there's no way you can actually show them this and they'll believe you, for the same reason that you said that you were skeptical. I understand. So I said, well, how do I prove this? So what I had him do was I sent him to a laboratory in Germany which does biopsies, because it was a fat soluble chemical, and I traced the same molecule that was in his fat cells, which is an incredibly high concentration, to the same chemical that the farmer was using. And now he's engaging in all sorts of I left it
lawsuits.
there. I left it there. I don't get involved in all the technicalities.
But it must be hard for you.
For me, that's your problem. That's my jurisdiction.
Yeah. You speak English is your main language, right?
Yeah, but I speak Luxembourgish.
Oh,
French.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was about to say, because if I was like about to approach a Luxembourgish farmer with this problem,
no,
English,
I honestly, I don't get involved. My job is to tell people what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And to give them.
No, I understand.
I'm not really interested.
This was a special scenario, obviously.
This guy's, it's a serious health problem.
Yeah.
And if he hadn't have told me like all the other things there, I probably would have said, well, just whatever. Like, I don't know what I would have done, but it was because like all these people were very sick around him. I thought there's something, and I was really curious as well. I was like really curious to find out what was wrong with this guy, and so in the end. I just simply referred him and we did a biopsy, and we found that he had an incredibly high concentration. And I guess what's happening is that this farmer is spraying whatever it is, and he's just breathing the stuff in, and it's basically creating ill health and disease and things like that. And not just him, of course, but he was the link.
Like, knowing what you know, or I mean, obviously you have been doing this for quite some time.
Yeah, 5 years.
Yeah. I mean, every time you buy a new product, you test it on yourself.
I don't buy new products.
Have you bulletproof your house for your kids? And
I've tested. My wife is the guinea pig in the family because she's the one who had the most problems. But yeah, so basically, I make sure that all of our detergents, we don't use fabric softener anymore. We use certain products that I've found to be safe. Yeah. You can't test kids, because they can't. Until a certain age, they're not compliant. So you can't reliably test them. And so I just simply use my wife to try and figure out, because I can't test myself. So because it's not practical.
The way you test. Yeah.
But yeah, no. Basically, it was. And whenever my wife says, "Oh, I've got a neck problem," I don't think, "Okay, I got to fix her neck." I think, "Well, what have you bought recently that is potentially creating a problem?" So I no longer think straight away like mechanical problem. You know what I mean? Like, when she says, "Oh, I have a problem with my shoulder,"
the first reaction you have is like, "What did you do to your shoulder?"
Exactly.
Yeah.
Unless she said, "Oh, I had a car accident last week," I'm like, "Okay, well, it's probably like a mechanical problem." Yeah. But like, it's normally, "Okay, what have you bought that is unusual?" Because she loves shopping.
Oh, that's your first reaction.
Yeah.
Not like what you lift wrong or.
No.
But that's the whole thing about your question before. The common people will think that way. My knee hurts. What did I do to hurt my knee? And you're thinking out of the box due to your job experience, and you're thinking automatically, what influences me at this moment?
If I take myself as an example, like at the moment, like the pain that I have now, I'm 100% sure it's because of my physical movement.
Okay.
And like, I don't know. And you're saying basically that your approach would be, your first approach would not be that. You would think, okay.
Well, I've never examined you before, so I have absolutely no idea. I would simply start with the fundamental 3 questions. Why are you here?
Yeah.
What's wrong with you? And can I help you? And so I would just simply start from there, and I would make no assumptions, because as soon as I start saying, "Oh yeah, he's a CrossFit, it must be the cleans or whatever," you're just simply going to assume things, and you're probably going to not figure out what's wrong with them. So the thing is, like, can I help you means, is this a mechanical problem that I can fix this right here, right now? Am I confident being able to do that?
Which it could be.
Yeah, it could be. I mean, you've probably had a car accident in your life, and you've probably had certain traumas. I mean, I have no idea. I have to figure that out. But I would start there. And with the examination I would try and figure out, if I couldn't find anything mechanically wrong with your body, I would say, okay, it's not mechanical.
But would you would you start, because I train a lot. I mean, considering, like, if I compare it to normal people, like probably the people you walk into your office,
okay,
or to get some help, I probably train,
okay,
more than.
Yeah, it's fairly reasonable to say. Yeah, I guess that's true.
Would you then, your examination, would that change for me? Like,
no, it's exactly the same. Whether it's you or an 80-year-old woman, it makes no difference, because you have the same physiology.
But I do more things that, like, physically, that could harm me than maybe that 80-year-old woman.
Yeah, but if you have recurrent injury, there's something that keeps hurting you that you haven't understood. So my job would be able to say, okay, what would be normal? Like, if I put you on my table and you're how old are you? 30? Oh, okay, a good guess.
Yeah, that's good. I was going to stop you there. 30.
Gemini? No, it's okay.
Nope.
What I would do is I would say, okay, what can this guy do? Can he do my tests?
What can't he do? No, I'm just kidding.
And then, like, okay, well, he should be able to do that. Then why can't he do that? And then if I examine you and you can do everything, and you still have pain, well, the problem isn't you. It's the environment. Because all disease is basically deficiency or toxicity.
Could it just be the muscle is pulled and so it needs 3 weeks to heal, or like?
Yes, but then it's mechanical.
Yeah, but then it's mechanical.
That's what you mean. So if
you figure it out.
Yeah.
But disease is very simple. It's either deficiency of something or it's toxicity. And you want to try and get in the middle. You want to try and be in what we call the homeostatic range. So health is...
Say that again.
Homeostasis. Homeostasis is this kind of this normal range of where you need to kind of be.
Yeah.
And if you are in the lower range, this is called deficiency. And if you're on the upper range, this is called toxicity. And that's fairly well understood. So, it's either... If you're not within this range with something, I don't know what it is, but if it's not you that's the problem, it's your environment, it's something around you that you're exposing yourself to, because those are the only two variables. There's only two things it can be. It's either you or where you are. There's nothing else it can be. And people say to me, "Oh, it's my father had a heart arrhythmia." I was like, "Yeah, but your father had a lot of problems that you probably have as well." And genetics doesn't explain like a lot of this stuff, and people often say to me, "Oh, it's genetic," and that's just laziness, because it might not be genetics. It probably isn't.
It's like sort of your grandpa used to eat crappy food all his life, and he got a heart attack, and your dad ate all his food all his life, and he got a heart attack, and now you are prone for a heart attack because you eat crap all day, and you say it's genetics. That's what you say.
Exactly. It's like that old caveat says, it's not that obesity runs in your family, it's that no one runs in your family. You see, that's...
Or the food you eat in your
There's a certain common environment with you and your father. You might have had the same, dentist or whatever. But there's a variety of different things that could create your problem. And that's my job, to try and figure out what is important and what is not important. So, what I would encourage you to do is to try and... it's actually not that complicated. You just got to keep it simple. Just keep it all simple. Like, maybe you don't want to use really strong smelling aftershave. In fact, maybe you don't want to use aftershave at all. Just kind of use a deodorant that kind of makes you not stink like a Neanderthal. And that's enough, It's no wonder women get more injured than men, because they're using far more products.
Really?
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah, it's fun.
But do they get more injured than men?
It's more than 60%. It's more than 40% injury. Really? Quite a lot more, yeah. There's a study done in Luxembourg recently on the tips. This tips.lu. There used to be this running initiative. They were doing tests on running shoes, and they wanted to figure out which running shoes were better for you, because there was the whole Vibram 5-finger shoes. They were trying to figure out like if they were better for you than normal running shoes. They started this really, really well-designed study. And it all started with, they used the INS, which is the sports lycée. And it all started with, well, how many of their students are injured? And the females were far more injured than males. Yeah.
That's good. I had an idea.
Go for it.
I think what we need to do is, I think I need to come to you for an examination.
Okay.
And let's see where that goes.
Okay.
And then if we get some... It would be fun to have you back on after that.
Okay.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like, we'll
I'm not here to... This is not publicity for me.
No,
I don't need new patients. I don't want new patients.
No, I get that.
Well, you got one new one.
Yeah, you got a new one. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll try and fit you in somewhere, but like...
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, for sure. And I think that'd be interesting.
Okay, yeah.
For that.
And I wouldn't treat you any different, because every patient...
No, I
is
want
the
you.
same.
I don't want you to treat me different.
And yeah, we'll come back to this, and we'll, if you want, if you consent, we can actually go through your findings. Maybe we can even like show what the findings mean.
We'll be totally open. Yeah.
And then we can demonstrate exactly like visually what this means, and then we can, because if anything, you're a trainer here, so you should be non-biased. You should not have any bias towards or against me. So there should be, you should be a good candidate for this experiment. So. Yeah.
No,
you should be able to figure the bullshit out if there is any very quickly. Yeah. That's fine. And I've got no problem doing that. I love these things.
Me neither. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Because I'm always trying to find ways to improve myself.
Yeah.
And I enjoy that. So, but the reason I'm so confident is because I know this works. Because I've been doing it so long, and I've tested this, and I've had patients. I was treating the guy who actually started CrossFit here in Luxembourg. Andreas is the guy who actually...
Oh, he was the first one they brought in.
Yeah, exactly. He's the guy who kind of like built it.
He's also... He's a nice guy. He's a nice guy.
Yeah.
But he's also
a lot
out of
stronger
the box.
Isn't he?
He's what?
Stronger than
He's
me.
a massive guy.
He looks stronger.
He looks strong.
But is he stronger?
I don't know.
Challenge coming.
Figure that out, I guess.
No, he's not.
He's not stronger. You're watching.
So we're going to tag him here.
No, but like,
right?
I mean,
Yeah,
I've had monsters in my clinic. I mean, bodybuilders. I have, there's a lot of bodybuilders in Luxembourg, and they're not all steroid users, but I've had a lot of monsters on my table, and they go weak like kittens.
Yeah, I don't doubt that at all.
I mean, there's no way. Look at me. I'm overweight, and I'm about 95 kilos, and they should throw me through the wall. And they just simply don't, because their physiology is working against them, and that's what it's based on.
But I have another question. How before in the beginning you said like movement is one of the most important things as human beings, right? So we should move. We shouldn't be sedentary.
We're designed to move.
We're designed to move. So you also said that it's actually bad to be sedentary and not move at all.
Yeah.
How would you approach people to get them to move again? And to like say like you have a 40-year-old guy who's just playing miniature games all the time. And,
I can think of one example.
And he has a brother who also doesn't move that much. And how would you approach these people to get them to move more?
Unfortunately, you have to scare them.
Okay.
I don't believe, and this is where people think I'm very controversial. I don't believe there's any such thing as prevention in medicine. I don't think that exists. Okay, there's prevention in lifestyle. There's only intervention with medicine, and I would consider what I do interventive. Okay, it's not prevention, not really. But if you don't prevent certain problems from happening, they're inevitable. Like you will get sicker, and sometimes it takes something serious for people to change their behavior. Like, for example, stopping smoking. Unfortunately, they have to actually get lung cancer to stop smoking, and it's unfortunate they have to do that. But of course, just educating people and trying to encourage them is the only way you can really do it. There's no other way. Yeah.
Do you move a lot?
I used to be a really good runner.
Used to be what?
A good runner.
Okay.
I used to run well, and I used to run a lot.
Like what distance?
Marathons.
Okay.
Yeah, I was marathon.
Me too.
Yeah. And I played golf most of my life. But because of certain things, like I had 2 kids and you know, I have this business and things, the exercise was on the back burner. I don't exercise as much as I would like to anymore. Absolutely running, I'd love to do that more. And I know it's bad for me. Like I know I need to move more. And you know, it's difficult to start doing that again. Like I had to run 10 minutes a day. I was like out of breath. It was like embarrassing. I was like, oh my God. But once my kids get to a certain age where they can kind of look after themselves, you know, to supervise them 100%, then I will definitely get back into something more cardiovascular, like running more. I loved barefoot running. It was fantastic. The first time someone gave me a pair of 5 fingers, I was like, why was I using anything else? Like I used to wear these massive New Balance running shoes for trail running because I used to really like trail running during uni. And then I was given these shoes and I was just like, why doesn't everyone wear these? This is just amazing because it's so much easier to run with these on. It feels so much more natural. And so I would never run without them on. I would always run with Vibrams on or whatever. And then I got into like literally barefoot running as well, just like no shoes whatsoever. But it's not always very practical. But I mean I know I will. I need to start exercising more. I know that for sure because
you should start CrossFit.
Yeah, I was about to say you're not. Your
I live down the road.
Yeah, so
oh really?
I could hit a golf ball in my house.
So you put your kids to sleep and then come to the 8 o'clock class.
Yeah. My wife is. I like spending time with my wife, and she doesn't like. She's a really good tennis player, and
with full respect to your situation, because it sounds like you are busy, and you are busy,
and I'm committed to my job.
But wouldn't you think also it's just a proven fact that if we exercise, that our productivity is better.
Oh yeah,
everything.
Your mental you're absolutely. Yeah, it's like...
So basically you're just making excuses.
Yeah, exactly right. Like, you know, if I was a multi-millionaire and I didn't have to work 60 hours a week and my kids would have looked after by an au pair, I'm pretty sure I'd run almost every single day.
I know what you mean.
But that's not the reality. You have kids?
Yeah, 2.
Okay, so you know my problem, I guess.
Yeah.
But it will change, and I guess I'm just relying on my youth. My job is also very fit, and strenuous. So I am, strong because I'm constantly testing people and building up a sweat, and I have to treat people who are very, very large sometimes, and that's very, very physically demanding.
Yeah, it's cool.
And I don't. Sorry.
What would you tell people that are afraid to come to you?
To see me?
Yeah.
If nothing else, we just have a chat. If you don't want, I fully respect your consent. Like I don't ever, I have a questionnaire form, and I have to ask you for consent to be examined. And I will never treat anybody who doesn't want to be treated. And if you want nothing more to talk about that, that's absolutely fine. So there's absolutely no obligation. In fact, if you don't even want to pay for it, then don't. Like if you just want to come for a chat, we can have a chat, and it's like that. Or I'm even examine you, and I don't. If for example, if I examine someone and I can't figure out what's wrong with them, or there's nothing wrong with them. Like some people come and say to me, "Oh yeah, I just want to check up, just to see what's going on." I examine them, like, "There's nothing wrong with you. Get out of my clinic." Yeah. There are people who need this. Don't waste my time.
Checkup.
Yeah. It's a checkup, but I don't charge for them because I just like, Yeah.
But do you think like as an athlete or somebody who trains 4, 5, 6 times a week and something like CrossFit?
I don't train 6 times a week.
No. But do you think? But do you think these people actually need this checkup from time to time, especially from what your perspective goes from a job?
I reckon you need to listen to your body. Like that's the key. Like I always tell people, listen. If you feel something's wrong, wait a bit. If it settles down on its own, keep going. But if this becomes an issue, then come in for a check. And I say to people, like every 6 months to a year, just come for a checkup. If there's nothing wrong with you, then it's fantastic. Good news. And that's probably a good approach to have, like a control technique for your car, right?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
There might be nothing wrong with your car, but it's good to have it checked out. But I don't oversell that at all. I just kind of say like, okay. And I have some people.
My question a bit relates to are people doing CrossFit more prone to injuries because they do what they do? And is that?
And can I answer your question with another question?
Yeah.
Are people who do nothing more likely to get injured?
Yeah, that's
I would say so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. They're more likely to get health problems.
Yeah, well, okay, yes.
But I think that I think that people who like don't exercise probably don't get that many, at least like repetitive strain injuries, for example, or like traumatic lesions.
Yeah.
But they probably get like low back pain, like low back pain,
shoulder pain,
or headaches, or like this constant head posture thing. But I think the question is flawed, because it should rather be, what do you do with people who do CrossFit and they get injured?
Mm-hmm.
That's probably more relevant, because, like I said before,
because it's part of the game.
Yeah, injury is normal. You get injured every time you exercise, okay? But so is recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And if recovery isn't happening, then it's like a light bulb that goes off in your head. Okay, something's wrong here.
Mm-hmm. Let's
figure out. Like on your car, there's a whole dashboard full of lights that flash. Like, unfortunately, we only have one big light that's pain, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, most people, like, unless it really hurts where I can't pick up my kids, or I can't go to work anymore, I can't go to CrossFit, they'll do nothing about it.
Yeah.
And that's wrong.
Yeah.
They should simply listen to their body, and then when they don't feel they're improving, or something's like not getting better, or it's really a problem, then we can just examine them and just try and figure it out.
I totally agree with that, because if we put this in perspective for us as coaches, I mean, that's what we often say in Prone, to tell people to take their rest days.
Yeah, it's so important.
To take the rest days, and in general make sure that the technique is fine, and don't push yourself into weights where you just crap out on technique. And especially in the beginning, as a beginner, you're so addicted to CrossFit because it's so much fun as a sport, and it's also so much fun because of the community. You just want to be here every day, and you want to train and train and train and train, and you usually don't listen to people, and that's what you said before, until you hurt yourself, until you're in a stage where you can't train anymore and it's annoying you, and then you start thinking about your health more and about what you're doing in your training.
And that's a normal that's the progress of things, isn't it? Like, that's normal.
That's what you said.
Yeah,
before.
and then if you're not well versed in health, then you need to find someone who is and try and find some answers. But I'll come back to that again. I was watching this documentary because I thought that shoes were very important for long distance runners.
Yeah.
And so I watched a lot of interviews with top level Kenyans and Ethiopians, and they said the shoes that make a blind difference. It's the rest and the recovery before and after the event which determines their performance. It's that rest and recovery time.
Yeah. Oh, that's good.
It's like this whole pasta loading before marathons. It's just so stupid. Carb loading before marathons. It's the stupidest thing.
But I mean,
no sense.
Well, at some point, if you go over like a 90-minute effort, you empty your normal. Well, that's what I've been heard.
But you can replenish that during the race, so you should have a constant metabolism during the race. So you
think that, I mean, marathon runners that are, if they're going really fast, they're not consuming a lot of energy in their drinking stations.
If you look at the top marathon runners in the world, none of them carb load.
Okay.
If anything, they'll have like a banana before the race, and they'll just drink water throughout the race.
What if it's like a 12-hour thing?
Oh, this is stupid. Don't do that. No, I had one patient doing ultra marathons.
It's time to tell him about the Rogue Ironman, right?
Okay.
Or
definitely
don't. Like a 24-hour thing.
Okay. How do I answer that? Are you asking me, is carb loading a good thing?
You, like, I know nothing about you, and you know nothing about me.
That's fine.
That's good. Yeah.
Conversation.
So
okay, but look, I mean, when it comes to like high exertion exercise, absolute carb loading doesn't make any sense because you're simply transporting loads of blood to your digestive system away from where you need it, on the muscles. It's a mistake. Whereas a slow release carbohydrate over the duration of the thing is probably much more better for you, and also hydration is key as well. So I think that's probably a much better approach, and it's probably why a lot of people have heart problems during races and stuff. They develop like heart attacks because they're just simply putting far too much strain on their heart because their blood's in their stomach digesting a bowl of pasta or a lot of bowls of pasta, and so when it's needed in your extremities, the heart's just kind of giving it legs, and it's just like problem, bang.
I agree. So what you're saying is during competition, fuel. That's what is more important than pre-competition.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Exactly.
With that. I agree with that. 100%.
There's no question.
I agree with that.
It's a mistake. For people to do that.
But carb loading is fun.
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding.
Pasta.
Yeah, you can eat a lot of pizza. And
and you know, it's fair enough. And cheat days are fine too. You know, people
Of course.
cheat days is fine too. But
that's good, man. Thanks for joining.
yeah, pleasure, man. We'll see you.
Yes.
Let's it'd be fun to do the experiment.
Before we wrap it, where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
So it's just the chiropractor Luxembourg. So there are 4 clinics in Luxembourg. One is in Kirchberg. It's Scott Oliver.
Yeah.
He has another 2 associates there.
I've been to him once.
Okay.
Yeah.
And there's us in Strassen. It's myself and my colleague Umberto. There's one in the city who's Charlotte Tossa. And there's one in Rue Guillaume, Avenue Guillaume, in Bel Air. It's Alexandre Fremont. We do different things, so we don't all do what I do. I'm not going to say that. But if you want to find me particularly, you can just type in chiropractor Luxembourg, and we're the one in Strassen. Praxis is what we call ourselves.
Yeah. Cool, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Absolutely. It's pretty
That's a wrap.
interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good job, man.
High five.
Cool. Yeah.